Hello, all you hardcore boxing fans out there. How are you doing? It's Big Porky here, the voice of hardcore boxing. But then again, you know that because that's why you've tuned in. Thank you for being a member. This video is going to be going on to members side of the channel. The good news is, if you remember, you get to see all extra videos. But the money that's generated off this, and it ain't that much, we're putting into some production stuff. Where we've done a couple with a company, and we're going to be doing another one. And it makes it a bit easier for us than fucking out all the time. But anyway, I hope you're going to enjoy today's video. I'm joined by Kent from Belfast in Northern Ireland. How are you doing, Kent?
All right, we're also back on the Porky train.
Yeah, you were well received last time you came on, and the other video you did before. You're very polished with what you think about boxing. So we're going to go straight in then. Chisora Parker, pay-per-view.
So we've got Derek Chisora, 10 losses. Yeah. We've got Joseph Parker, hugged his way through. Anthony Joshua looked terrified. He was lucky against Huey. He had that terrible fight with Farr. How can this be justified to be a pay-per-view fight? You know, I always remember Terry was really, really critical of Parker. And I always thought, Terry, you're a bit hard on him. He's 100% right in everything he says. So Terry, you were right. It's not a standalone pay-per-view fight. It's not even close. But they're kind of going to try and justify it. Well, they can't justify it because the card behind it is probably the best card Matchroom have had ever. Probably ever. I can't remember a better card than that. You know, Parker has ditched his coach. He's being coached by Andy Lee now. So he is. Chisora was on this week talking about he's going to bring a coach in, which is kind of good because Russell, he didn't have a boxing coach getting into the USAC fight, and he looked absolutely terrible. His balance, he was square. His shot selection was... I'm a Chisora fan.
Did you bring Buddy McGirt in? Auntie had Buddy McGirt there for a week when working with him.
A week, but that's a week. You know what can you do with a world-class fighter in a week? That's not even what 5% of the training camp. So I think he's going to need to bring in a proper coach, do proper boxing training, not do all this MMA. He was training. He was sparring in a cage, training like in a MMA gym in London. You had Ruben Tavares in his corner giving him boxing instructions. I don't know many fights that he's had. But this is going to be make or break for the both of them. It's a crossroads. I can't see where the loser of this fight is going to go. Eddie Hearn said yesterday that the winner of this fight will be number 1 ranked in the WBO.
Yeah.
Which, how long is that going to be? Because USAC and Joe Joyce has been brushed under the carpet. So pay-per-view fight, okay, it's got a great card behind it that justifies it. But if the card wasn't as good as it is, I wouldn't be paying for it. Not even close. Wonder what the script is going to be that week, that 2 weeks before the fight. You know, tables going up, spitting water, pushing, shoving. You know, I don't believe it. You know, Joseph Parker's been dancing about for the last year on TikTok, so he's not going to be this roadman killer overnight. Dale Boy knows it's his last chance. He will have to do. He will have to be 100 times better than he was against Usyk.
Yeah. Well, when everybody knows my opinion on Joseph Parker, I think he's got the heart of a breadcrumb, right? I don't think he's got any gonads. I think he more or less tries to stay out of range all the time and run clock down. Very boring. I saw him fight that junior fight, and everybody in the boxing industry knows that after that fight, Eddie Hearn was straight on to his manager saying, listen, that's going to be no good for pay-per-view to get anybody interested. They more or less forced Kevin Barry out at door. And that's how it's done. Hearn don't have to tell him Barry crap. He'll just tell his manager that style's no good. And Sky won't be interested in that. And it's enough for them to make changes, isn't it?
Yeah, well, if they're looking to sell a fight, you know, that style's terrible. You know who he reminds me, Russ, of? Joe Bugner. A worse version of Joe Bugner.
Yeah.
I think he done nothing in that Anthony Joshua fight. Nothing. He looked terrified. He hugged. He holed. The Hughie fight he was on the ropes most of that time. I thought he was I had Hughie winning by 2 rounds. The Farr fight I turned it off after 6 rounds. I'm not subjecting myself to that. The Andy Ruiz win was only really because his sponsor come up with the money for the arena. So kind of what does that say? I don't rate him. I think he's bluffing it. He's had so many big money fights. He's absolutely no hunger whatsoever. And it just shows. It's like, does he even like boxing? The way he fights, he fights like he doesn't even want to be there. So he doesn't.
How's even third pay-per-view?
Terrible. And he's had big fights in Australia and New Zealand. You know, that boxing over there is really big at the minute. You know, they've got Tim Tszyu coming through. They've got a good, you know, pedigree of fighters. They sell. The arenas are all like that arena for the Farr fight was absolutely packed. So he's getting really, really good money. And you even say, you know, like Dale Boy, for all his faults, he does try. He does try to bring it, where Parker just doesn't want to know. So would I watch him in pay-per-view if it wasn't for the card? No, absolutely not.
All right, then. Natasha Jonas against Katie Taylor. Terry Harper don't want the rematch because she got a good hiding. So is Katie Taylor and Jonas, is that the right time for Jonas to get her, or is Katie Taylor over ill, or is Jonas over ill? What do you think about that fight, Kent?
Delighted. I was delighted. I was delighted for Natasha. She doesn't get the credit she deserves for what she's done for British boxing.
Yeah.
I'm delighted for Joe Gallagher, who was ring trainer of the year a couple of years ago.
Is he the only Englishman to win that?
Oh, did Enzo Calzaghe win it?
Yeah, is he Italian though? Is he Italian?
Italian,
Welsh, English, I don't know. Bit of everything, they were great.
God rest them. But you know, I was delighted for them, and you know, I don't think they've been given, you know, the respect that they deserve in that camp.
Did Shane McGuigan win it?
Who for?
Did Shane McGuigan win the Ring magazine, or what did Frampton win Fight of the Year or Fighter of the Year?
I think it was Frampton won. I think it was Overseas Fighter of the Year. Ring. Yeah. So he did. But I think it's a great fight for the two of them.
Yeah.
I watched the first Delphine Passoon fight. I don't think Taylor won it. I thought she was pushed to the absolute limit by, you know, Passoon was a part-time fighter. You know, she only had 6 weeks camp. Taylor's a full-time athlete. The second fight, I actually thought Passoon could have got a decision. It was a lot closer than what Sky portrayed on TV.
Yeah.
Taylor is being hit a lot more than she's ever did. You know, that style, you know, the only thing that can happen with that style through age is you slow down. So her last fight, she couldn't stop that girl from Argentina who was terrible, absolutely terrible. Natasha, in my opinion, won the Terry Harper fight. She won it by 2 rounds. her countering was amazing.
Yeah.
She's so heavy-handed. She looks so conditioned. She looks so fit. So I think it's a great time for Natasha. I think it's a well-deserved fight for her because Sky keep going on about, Katie Taylor, the trailblazer and the superstar and the icon and all. That's, Katie Taylor's done great for female boxing, no doubt about it. She's an Olympic champion. She's won multiple world titles, but there's other girls there as well. Katie Taylor done that in Ireland. Natasha Jonas was in the Olympics. Was one of the first female Olympians. So I think she needs to get a wee bit more credit that she deserves. And I think everyone's so close to jump on the Taylor hype train and this and that and greatest this and all. That's their opinion. That's great. But I would love to see Natasha Jonas win that fight because she's done it the hard way. She hasn't had a great, she hasn't been given really anything. She hasn't been given anything or been given. She's great in TV as well. So
fantastic on TV.
It's great. And, she's so heavy-handed, Russell. Mm-hmm. I think that she's a lot heavy-handed, more so than Delphine Persoon. I think it's going to be a really tight fight. Natasha hasn't broke camp from the last fight. So I think it's going to be I think it could be a life and death fight for Taylor. So I do. And I would love Natasha to win it because she's a single mom, she's balancing everything. She's a great role model for women.
Yeah.
Never mind female athletes. So I would love her to win that fight.
All right then. Eubank Morrison. Now, Kalle Sauerland's come out and said he's going to get a lot of hate for putting Morrison in with Eubank, but I don't think it's that much of a gap between them. Obviously, Morrison's on a good run. I think Eubank's obviously he's been in with better people, but who is his best win?
Russell, I always thought his best win was Chudinov for the WBA interim belt. I thought that was as good as he's looked.
Yeah.
The Yildirim fight, I'm not even going to talk about him. I don't even want to talk about Yildirim for the way he fought against Cannonier. Eubank smashed him to bits. I thought, as I said there, it was probably the Chudinov win was Eubank's best win. So it was, and that was like what 4 or 5 years ago.
Do you think
for the dub?
Oh, sorry.
And that was for Russell, WBA interim title.
Yeah. Do you think, Ken, that if you weren't called Chris Eubank, if you were just Fred Bloggs, and we were looking at him now, for example, put John Ryder next to him, totally different personality. Is John Ryder's body of work better than Chris Eubank's? Yeah, he is, isn't he? But he's not going to get paid as much as Chris Eubank, is he?
No.
So
no.
And Tyon Booth gave Chris Eubank nightmares, but he ran out of steam, didn't he? Ran out his fitness let him down. But point I want to make is that I think Marcus Morrison could bring a surprise in this fight, and I think there could be a banana split skid thing there, but we could be screaming about bad judging on night, couldn't we?
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. Marcus he's on a win streak at the minute.
Yeah.
He's 7 fight wins. He was brought in as a B-side in one of those Italian shows.
Italian, yeah.
And he got a big win, which was great for him.
Blanderama.
Yeah. He got a great win there out of the blue. And this is probably the biggest purse of the lad's career, which is brilliant. It's a great opportunity for him. We all know Joe is very, very strict with his fighters. They're always, if they're not in camp, they're in camp. They're training. So Marcus Morrison's a big middleweight.
Yeah.
He's long, he's gangly, he can box, he can punch a bit. Eubank hasn't fought. Take away that last fight, that was an injury and he was getting his head boxed off him.
Yeah.
He hadn't landed a punch. So you take away that, he hasn't really fought in 2 years.
Oh.
And that was a shipwrecked James DeGale. So this is going to tell us two things. This is going to tell us that is Eubank going to go any further, or has he went backwards?
Yeah.
Roy Jones, who's Roy Jones coached? There's an old saying, great fighters don't make great trainers.
Yeah.
So there's completely unproven. So I think Marcus Morrison could really shock Eubank. And if they're taking this fight lightly, I know Eubank is always in great shape and he's always fit. But Marcus Morrison has been more active the last 2 years. He's had like 3 or 4 fights, take away pandemic. He's been fighting 3 or 4 times a year. So I think it's a really good fight. I think it's good for Joe. I think it's good for
Marcus.
I think it's a great fight. I think it's one of those real trade fights that everyone out from the outside will be looking at and think, oh, Eubanks is going to smash him. I don't see that. And you said to me there about if he was Jimmy Bloggs or Jimmy Smith. If he was Jimmy Smith from down the road, he would probably have 10 losses in his record by now because he wouldn't have been so carefully matched on the way up because of his name. That's it, because of his name. I actually rate Harlem as a better technician than Chris Jr.
Yeah. Bivol against Craig Richards.
Great fight. Richards come out of nowhere. We didn't come out of nowhere. He was on a few Matchroom shows, and then he got that opportunity on the McAnally show, and he beat Peters, who was, his next big. Hopefully, he was trying to model him as his next big star. So he's had that great win. I thought he was lethal in that fight. I thought he was box punching really well. He's a really, really good fighter. I really respect him. He's with Tony Sims, isn't he?
Yeah.
Richards. Yeah, I see him. He's not on social media all the time. He's not on Twitter all the time.
Craig Richards, yeah.
What's that?
Is he with Tony Sims? Yeah, Craig Richards, yeah.
I think he is. I've seen them. I've seen them doing some training runs and stuff with Connor Ben. Yeah. So all right. I think he's in that camp.
With them. That's Colwell, isn't it?
Yeah. So, it's an opportunity for him. I think he's a bit above that domestic level now. He's a British champion. He's got that opportunity against Bivol. Bivol went through a wild tour there for a while and knocking everybody out. He hasn't been doing that. He hasn't knocked anybody out in his last 4 fights, even though he's been in with some really, really good fighters. Why not put him in there and give the lad a chance at world level? Because he deserves it.
Yeah. All right then. Maxi Hughes, Cinderella Man.
Brilliant. It reminds me a wee bit of Steve Robinson back in the 90s.
Yeah.
He's a lad there that had a lot of losses early, wasn't really focused on the game, working a couple of jobs, probably wasn't a great ticket seller, a southpaw.
Yeah.
So I just think it's amazing how he's turned his career around. He's won WBC international title. He beat John Joe O'Carroll, who was calling out the world, and he had a great win on Friday night. I think it's a great story for pure boxing, for boxers. You don't have to have a perfect record and be on social media all day and be on channels to get success. He's kind of done it the hard road, and I think it's a great story. I think it's brilliant. He seems like a really nice guy, and he deserves the best. So he does.
Yeah. But getting back to that show we've just spoke about there, I'm going to have to praise Eddie Hearn, I'm gonna have a terrible time leading up to this, aren't I? Can't say about that show, can I? Can't. I mean, Chisora Parker shouldn't be headlining it because there's probably Bivol Richards is probably best fight on card, isn't it? You know,
Tradeways, yeah.
But the card's deep, isn't it? Taylor Jonas, Morrison Eubank, but Chisora Parker's probably crappiest fight out of all them four there, isn't it?
I'll just take the dog for a walk, watch the card and take the dog out.
Yeah. All right then. So Maxi Hughes, British champion, he's come from nowhere. Maybe been a little bit carefully matched, but you know he's 31. He's had a lot of fights for 30 odd fights, hasn't he? But I just think he's done fantastic, and we have to give credit to Sean O'Hagan and have to give Steffi Bull some credit as well, I suppose, don't we? Is he his part manager or is something to do with him? So we have to give him credit, don't we? What they do with Maxi.
Yeah, even a fight, you know, I was thinking today about that, and I'm thinking like war next for him, you know, maybe a fight like someone like a Terry Flanagan.
Yeah,
that would be a cracking fight. That would be a really good fight.
Yeah.
But he's done really well. You know, he's done remarkably well. Sean O'Hagan seems to. I was listening to Sean yesterday, and he just says, you know, I have to give credit to him, by the way, Russell, because he said that when some fighters leave trainers, it's nothing to do, you know, it's not the trainer's fault. They're not leaving the trainer because of his skills or his coaching.
Yeah.
They're just leaving to break routine and try new things.
Yeah.
Which was good of him to say that, you know. So it's a change of routine. He's sparring with Josh. They have a good wee camp there. It's a Cinderella story. It's a great British boxing story. So it is. It's a positive British boxing story.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Right. Lawrence Okoli.
The sauce.
His style's changed. He fought a good fight, a calculated fight, totally different to how he normally fights. Just credit have to be given to Shane McGuigan as well as Okoli. World champion now. He's won everything, hasn't he? Gone through the levels, everything that we like.
Yeah, you know, he's British, he's Commonwealth, he's European, he's world champion. You know, you can't argue with that build-up. You can't argue with that matchmaking. I know he had a couple of terrible fights. You know, the Askin fight was terrible. The Isaac Chamberlain fight was terrible. But they were fights younger in his career, and I think Lawrence, you know, you look at it, you know, he only had 22 amateur fights, and he got the Olympics. So he's kind of really learning, really on the job still.
Yeah.
Young career.
Yeah, not job, mate.
And I think, you know, when you're new to a sport, he's had that fencing style, that long fencing style, and the points scoring. Now he's got Shane, and he's actually molding into a pro style. You know, I think he's sitting down the shots. You know, he's got those big long arms, so he doesn't need to be close to tie up his own work.
Yeah.
You know, he's generating more force with his punching. You have to give Shane McGuigan credit for that, because he's totally changed his style. And I was a bit hard on him for a while there, and I stopped liking him because when he came through at the start, he was icing people. He was looking ferocious. I liked him.
Yeah.
Then those few fights, I kind of was like, oh, and now he's kind of coming through with Shane.
Yeah.
He's more offensive, so attacking. So I think we need to give him that bit of credit. You know, he was calculating last night. You know, look at Johnny Nelson when Johnny Nelson was fighting the cruiserweight. You know, Johnny Nelson wasn't stopping anybody. You know, even when he was world champion. Lawrence now seems to be, when he's hitting people, it's game over. So what next for him? Probably a Makabu WBC fight, which they want to do right away. But I think you're right. You're right, Russell. I think Shane needs to be given credit for it.
Yeah. They're talking about Bradis against Coley on pay-per-view this morning. Do you think Lawrence Coley is a pay-per-view fighter now?
Well, he's come through the levels. He's knocking people out. His style is being more, it's getting more exciting to watch. He's knocking people out now. So I don't think he's quite ready. I wouldn't pay to watch O'Coley on pay-per-view yet.
Yeah.
I would pay to watch him if it was for the undisputed title. You know, Marius Bradis is 36.
Yeah.
So he is. So I think he would. This may be seem controversial, but I think O'Coley will knock him out.
Yeah.
Yeah. The fight after that would be McCarby, who's in his 30s again for the WBC title. And Hearn's already worked with McCarby before with the Bellew, so that's an easy fight. But really, I'm thinking today, like this morning, I'm thinking about it. Cruiserweight isn't really that attractive of a weight to be pay-per-view. Really, is it, Russell?
No, ain't no.
So I can see them getting those next two fights out of the road, get them as many titles in the next 2 or 3 fights, then up to heavyweight, and they'll feed Dillian White or Del Boy to him.
Yeah. Yeah. All right then. Let's have a look. Kell Brook, do you think it's all over for him now?
What level?
Well, he's probably a British stroke Euro level now guy, isn't he? You think?
Yeah.
Conor Ben,
Yeah.
Kell Brook, I keep hearing mentioned amongst the chosen few. The whisper in it though.
Yeah, well, that's, you know, he's been really, really struggling. They've been talking about this weight. They've been struggling about, you know, after his defeat against that was a Crawford. What was the fight after the Golovkin fight he lost with the fractured orbitals?
Errol Spence.
Yes, Errol Spence. They talked about being dead at the weight, and but they always seem to go back to that weight every time. And I'm saying to myself, why would I want to watch this when you've been telling me that the guy's depleted and he's going to be weak at the weight? They've been struggling, but they always seem to go back to that weight all the time. We're level, no. Conor Ben, they need to get him in the pay-per-view fight. So that's the logical step after the Vargas fight. You know, Brook and Khan aren't going to fight each other. There's, you know, they wouldn't fight each other when there was a fortune on the purse. Now they're going to be fighting for lucky if they get quarter of that. So why would they do it now for so less? So he's going to be, and I hate to say this because I always rated Brook and I always thought he could have been a really good fighter, kind of like a Lloyd Hunnigan type. But he's just going to end up now a gatekeeper. So he is if he continues to fight. And that's sad.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think he'll fight again myself. Okay. Joe Joyce Usyk, Sam Jones. The situation there with the WBO and Frank Warren and Fury Joshua. What do you think about all that?
It's a disaster. You know, Joe Joyce is 36. He's had a great build-up. He's had, you know, he fought for a Commonwealth title in his second or third fight.
Parked up though, isn't he?
Parked up. It's a waste of time. You know, the time's clicking, the clock's ticking for him. And, you know, if your manager really wanted you to get that fight, he would be on to the WBO, right? Strip him. What's going on? You know, the Fury fight and Joshua fight, it could be a year away. You know, there's so much going on there behind the scenes. Yeah. But why is Sam Jones not pushing Eddie Hearn for that fight? You know, why? Why not?
Yeah.
You know, I know he's mates and all with Eddie and all, and they're all Grating and all the other channels and all, but you have to think, separate all these buddy romances or bromances with everybody, whatever you call it, separate that actually from doing your job.
Yeah.
And I don't think, they're really pushing for the WBO. Even an interim fight, I don't want to see an interim title. It doesn't mean anything. It just means an interim title for me and Russell means it's not the world title.
Yeah.
So it's an absolute farce. I feel sorry for Joe because he's had such a great build-up. He's done everything the traditional way. He's fought in America. He hasn't had 20 journeymen. He's had a good, steady build-up against good names. Usyk, he's an outstanding talent, one of the best talents we've seen in years. He's just been signed to get parked up and to get Cap out of the way.
Yeah.
So I don't see that fight happening anytime soon.
All right. Do you feel that if Dubois would have beat Joyce, that Frank Warren would be screaming for Dubois to be fighting Joshua now?
They would have been stripped.
Or be screaming for the Usyk fight?
They would have been stripped. The belt.
Yeah.
The belt would have been stripped, and it would have been for a WBO world title fight. Frank's lethal. People can say what they want about Frank.
Yeah.
He's been around the business a long time. He's a great relationship with the WBO. He's had a lot of WBO champions. So I think he would have, the belt, there would have been a lot more heat anyway and a lot more pressure to get that belt free.
Okay. Looking at the WBO situation, though, do you think if Joyce had more than one fight left with Frank Warren, that Frank would have been screaming for Joyce Usyk to be fighting now?
Yeah, absolutely. That deal was on options. That was an option deal. So if he beat Dubois, it was always going to be he always had that fight option on him. So he did.
Yeah.
Really does. It's a hard one. It really is a hard one because why would Joyce go to Matchroom? Because he's not going to get the big prize, the world title fight. Why would Anthony Joshua want to fight Joe Joyce? And he knows that. So it's kind of a sticky position for Joe Joyce at the minute. It looks like he's going to be parked up for a lot of months, maybe the next 6 months. And that's not really ideal. And do you take a fight in the interim? Do you take a warm-up? Do you take a more dangerous fight, lose your ranking? You're back to square one. You'll never get a shot. It's terrible. I actually feel for Usyk and Joyce because they've been getting on with their business. They've been doing their job. They've been fighting, doing whatever they need to do. And the two of them have just been parked up. I think Joe Joyce's management team, if they're so good at what they do, they'll be screaming the house down to get that vacant belt.
Yeah. All right. Eddie Hearn made an announcement saying that there's going to be an announcement in 30 days and that they've got a 2-fight deal signed. But didn't Tyson Fury make one like that in June? I mean, where are we going with this now? Frank says there's nothing concrete and nothing over the line on IFL last night. So what do you think about all this, Kent?
So you've got Bob Arum, you've got Frank, you've got Eddie, you've got MTK in the background. They manage Tyson. Once I see a press conference and I see a date, I will think about it. But firstly, there's the rematch clause with Deontay Wilder.
Yeah.
There's the site fee thing that's going on. There's ESPN, there's BT Sport, and there's Sky Box Office. There's 3 providers. There's all the management. There's which country. There's the purses. There's a split. There's even who walks to the ring first. This is not going to be, they're spinning narratives because there was nothing to talk about last week. And it looks to me like they're trying to sell the fight to the casuals. They're trying to get the casuals. You know, people are texting me and all saying, "Can't, when's the fight happening?" and all. And I see this has been announced. And I'm like, no, it's when is it? When is it? There's nothing, you know, if they're discussing, they are talking about the fight. Obviously they are, but there's nothing concrete there. There's no press conference. You know, the very fact that Tyson Fury let, you know, his nutrition guy was over with him for 4 weeks. He went home last Sunday. So if this fight was happening anytime soon, he would be staying in camp with Tyson. So no, it's absolute lies. It's becoming a bit of a joke now, to be honest, Russell. You know, they said this in June, the fight was made. Okay, well, when's the date? What TV network is it on? Which country is it in? It is absolute, utter garbage. I'm sick of hearing fake news on social media, all these crap announcements. They just seem to me, it's just to keep themselves in the headlines talking about the fight.
Yeah.
I'm sick to death of it, Russell. I'm bored. I'm bored of it now. I'm really bored of it. You know.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Sorry, Russell.
I was just going to say, how I look at it, it's like you've got Tyson Fury, he's with MTK, isn't he? And he's with Bob Arum, and he's with Frank Warren. Got 3 powerful, lots of egos there, aren't you? And Tyson, so there's 4 egos there. Then we've got Joe Joyce, right? He's hanging out at, sorry, Joe Joyce. He's with Sam Jones, right? And Sam Jones is hanging out at back of Eddie Hearn. So he's going to want to please Eddie because he's going to want to make his own way in boxing. So he's sacrificing Joyce, who's really going to be at the end of his career any day, isn't he? He should be putting his foot down with that, saying, Eddie, come on, this fight's got to happen. They should be putting emails into the WBO saying, this fight with Usyk's got to happen. Then we've got Usyk and his team involved. They're wanting step aside. Then we've got opposite the Atlantic, there's Wilder. He's got a little role in all this, only because he's saying he's got a 3rd fight with Fury. And then we've got Shelley Finkel saying there's legal action. You've got Al Heyman, he's in charge of all them. And they've got their TV, PBC, and whoever they do their TV with. So there's like, and then there's got Eddie Hearn involved, and Eddie Hearn's dad, there's Sky. There's about 12 people all controlling something, when the best thing to do, in my opinion, is just to fight, get these contracts out of the way and say, look, we're 2 years away from this fight here. There's too many belts. Joshua's got all them belts and managers and commitments. And there's too many subplots messing it all up. Why can't everybody just step aside, let Joshua and Fury fight for all belts, and then carry on with it, and we can have one champion? Split all the belts up then, but just let's have one person known as the man. Greed. There's too many cooks spoiling the broth. There's too many chefs in a kitchen when really there's 12 chefs in the kitchen and 11 of them are technically kitchen porters.
It's just money.
Dishwashers.
It's all money. It's just money, 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 money. The egos are massive, but ultimately, Russell, it's all money. Money for the boys. This fight's miles away. I'm not even gonna. People are, you know, I put something on social media the other day about it. You know, if you think this fight's happening, it's not even anytime soon. And you've got other outlets, you've got other channels saying that people like us are negative for what we're saying. Well,
it's like truth, aren't we?
How are we? We're telling the truth. You know, why would I be negative about telling the truth about something? So this fight is a year away. We'll be lucky if we get it this year. Lucky.
Well, Old Man Hearn said 2022, didn't he, last summer?
Yep. And it looks like that. It looks even further away. And when this fight happens, there's going to be a rematch clause. So all them titles are going to be held up till 2023. That's insane. I feel sorry for Alexa.
Everybody's going to be fighting,
Joyce, Usyk,
aren't they?
I'm sick to death of watching interim title fights. I don't want to watch them.
This is why when I speak to people from other sporting industries, say horse racing people and stuff like that, and they show an interest in boxing, every now and then they'll ring me up and say, and you want me to get involved with that judging or with these promoters? Look what they're doing with belts and that. And we keep shooting ourselves in the foot, don't we, in the boxing industry, I think. You know, fans are allowing it to happen. We're being manipulated by all this fake news and, you know, platforms, and everybody's spinning narratives, and YouTubers and media people in promoters' pockets and that are not asking this question or that question. You won't get this in football industry, Kent, would you?
You wouldn't see Graham Souness reading off a script, or Jamie Carragher, or Jamie Redknapp, or the boys in Sky.
No.
Roy Keane, Micah Richards, they're turning strips out of each other. That's what I want. Not turn strips out of each other, but if they have something to say, they will say it. And they're not agreeing with everybody. That's the way Sky kind of used to be. You used to have Paul Dempsey on it. You had Ian Darke, who, if someone was coming in and it was a mismatch, he would have said it. Yeah. Now it's just narratives, scripts. You know, they've got themselves in this position, this earning position, and they're not being objective. And it's hurting the sport. The sport now, boxing now, people think, oh, these big fights and this not happen. Boxing's now has went back 10, 15 years. It's not a sport no more. It's a commercial business, and it's really hurting the sport. And if people are going to turn off it, you know, you can't argue with that, because it's turning into a circus.
Yeah, I agree. Well, okay then. Now listen, thanks for coming on. We'll just finish off. I want you to give me one answer. I don't want you to give me your top 5 and that. I want you to give me one answer. Who, at this moment in UK boxing, is the biggest arse licker?
Bellend.
Tony Bellew.
Yeah.
Are you going on that thing that were out yesterday, that video about him?
I used to like Tony. At the start. I watched all his fights. I got behind him. I watched him against Macabre. I paid for the 2 David Haye fights. So I'm not an anti. I'm not one. You know, he was in some exciting fights, but after his career, it's kind of just, he's got one of these guys. It's got an opinion and everything, and I really went off him on the SAS program. And I thought he made boxing look really bad.
Yeah.
And he really let himself down. You know, let's talk about it, Russell. If he touched anybody in that show or assaulted them, he would have probably been jailed, and he would have lost his job with Sky. So it's all an act. He just wants to bully people and intimidate people, to have this hard man attitude or whatever he wants. TV wise, you know, I don't want to listen to him anymore. I'm sick of him. I'm sick of listening to him. I don't want to listen to him anymore. I thought in the Chisora fight, he was so unprofessional. And I think if Sky want to get back some credibility, they need to get credible commentators in. They need to get people in who are objective and not just sitting talking about their mates all day. I don't want to listen to him.
That last night, I mean, he's bigging Dave Caldwell up for Anthony Fowler. Fowler's not even trained by Dave Caldwell now, is he?
No, Anthony Fowler looks a different boxer from he left, Anthony Fowler, and he's been working with Shane. Yeah. And he's got a pro style now. He's punching, he's generating power, he's punching through the target now. He's exciting. I actually really like Anthony Fowler, and I hope he gets a break. I hope he gets European title fight, and I hope he does well. But that's nothing to do with, you know, he was a lesser fighter with Caldwell. Yeah. And you know, why take credit for something that he didn't do? He was on that journey, but he's not a part of it now. I'm sick of listening to Tony Bellew. You know, this is a guy that was on saying about that if you're caught with, you know, performance enhancing drugs, you should be done for attempted murder, and you should be put out of the sport, and he's no time for drugs cheats. But he's on complaining on Twitter when he was getting drug tested, Oh, I'm getting drug tested this time of night. I'm getting drug tested all these times. But he's complaining about it. Don't want to listen to that. Don't want to listen to that nonsense.
He's a film star, you know. So he says.
Don't want to listen to him. Don't want to see him on TV. You know, he was going to hit a 60-year-old man on TV the way he was getting on. I got people texting me saying, "This Tony Bellew, man, he's a psycho and all. He's this and he's that." I'm like, if he touched anybody in that show, he'd be jailed and he'd lose everything on TV.
Yeah.
So it's just all a bully boy act. I don't want to see it. He made boxing look bad on that TV program. Young kids watching that and seeing this guy who's meant to be a disciplined athlete behaving in that way. I don't want to watch
program with that SAS program.
SAS Who Dares.
Yeah. Yeah, he only got that part because Carl Froch turned it down. So
you wouldn't see Carl Froch behaving like that.
I don't think Carl wanted to go on there and be put through that. Although he likes out like that, but he turned it down. And Bellew ended up taking it. So because he's a disappearing man, isn't he?
This is a guy that wanted nothing to do with boxing and he hated it and he wanted away and he had enough weight and all. And fuck, I'm just sick listening to him. I've had it with Tony. Tony, I've had it with you.
Tony, you give me an ulcer. I don't like you.
You give me migraines. You give me piles.
Give pile. All right, then. Well, on that pile note, the old Joey Piles. Right, I'm going to get off. Thanks for coming on, Kent. This will be on the members area Monday, Tuesday. You've now had 6 videos. You've got 4 left. I've got, how many days have I got left? 10 days to the 4, so I'm well ahead of schedule. I might even put some more out for you on members. We'll see how it goes, but it's all looking good. So thanks for coming on, Kent. You've been a real tonic. I'll let you get off to your mum's for some lunch now, Sunday lunch. You have a great Sunday, what's left of it, my friend.
Thanks very much, Russell. Take care, my friend.
Bye-bye.
Take care, buddy.
You like that one, didn't you? Right, first of all, I just want to say thank you very much for liking and subscribing. It means a lot to me because we're on this journey together, aren't we? So anybody got any ideas for the channel, fire them over to me, porkycorner@mail.com. All right. Shout out to Innovation Alloys and South Yorkshire Packaging. All right. Don't forget to subscribe. Keep on trucking.